At 2:47 a.m. on November the 15th, the alarm pierced the silence of First National Bank in downtown Cleveland, Ohio. Jack Harris, a 32-year-old postal worker, frantically loaded gold bars worth $160,000 each into canvas bags. Tommy Martinez worked beside him, sweat pouring down his face as they realized their perfect plan was falling apart. Marcus Webb shouted over the deafening alarm that the security system had triggered a complete lockdown. Red emergency lights bathed the vault in an eerie glow as steel barriers began dropping into place throughout the building, sealing all exits. They had come for 50 gold bars worth $8 million, but now they were trapped inside with no way out. On October 23rd, Jack Harris sat in his usual corner booth at the Riverside Diner on 3rd Street in Cleveland. The 32-year-old postal worker had eaten breakfast there every Tuesday and Friday for 2 years before starting his mail delivery route through the industrial district. Jack earned $28,000 annually delivering mail to the same businesses and residents day after day. His life followed a predictable routine. Wake at 5:30 a.m., coffee and toast at the diner, then 8 hours of sorting and delivering packages throughout downtown Cleveland. That morning changed everything when two men in expensive suits entered the diner and sat directly behind Jack's booth. One was William Morrison, president of First National Bank, whose photograph regularly appeared in the local business pages. The other was an insurance representative conducting a quarterly security review. Morrison began explaining their recent security upgrades to protect the bank's most valuable assets. He told the insurance man that their vault now contained 50 gold bars with a current market value of $8 million. Each bar weighed approximately 400 troy ounces and was worth about $160,000 at current gold prices. Jack nearly choked on his coffee when he heard the figure. $8 million represented more than 280 years of his postal salary. The conversation continued for 20 minutes, with Morrison unknowingly providing crucial details about security systems, guard schedules, and his own work habits. Morrison explained that the vault could only be opened during business hours by two senior officers working together. After 6 p.m., the time lock mechanism made it completely inaccessible. He described their emergency lockdown system, which would seal all exits within 30 seconds if any security parameter was breached. Most importantly for Jack's future plans, Morrison mentioned that he worked late every Thursday evening at the bank, reviewing quarterly reports and preparing for Friday board meetings. This meant his house would be empty during those hours. When the two men finished their breakfast and left, Jack sat staring at his newspaper. The casual discussion of such enormous wealth had planted an idea that would grow into the most audacious crime of his life. For the rest of that day, Jack found it impossible to concentrate on his postal route. As he delivered mail to familiar addresses, his mind kept returning to Morrison's words. $8 million in gold bars, sitting in a vault just 6 blocks from his daily route. That evening, Jack researched William Morrison at the public library. The phone directory provided Morrison's home address, 1247 Maple Avenue. Jack drove past the substantial colonial house, noting its layout and security measures. Over the following days, Jack established Morrison's routine through careful observation. The bank president followed predictable patterns: coffee at the diner on Tuesdays and Fridays, lunch at the country club on Wednesdays, and those crucial late work sessions every Thursday evening. On November 8th, Jack made the crucial decision to steal the gold. The idea had evolved from fantasy to serious consideration as he realized this might be his only chance to escape a life of financial struggle. Jack knew he couldn't accomplish such an undertaking alone. On November 1st, he encountered Marcus Webb outside the unemployment office. Webb had been a security guard at First National Bank until his termination 3 weeks earlier due to budget cuts. Jack had known Webb casually since high school. When Webb mentioned his former employment at the bank, Jack's interest sharpened considerably. Without revealing his own knowledge of the vault's contents, Jack encouraged Webb to discuss his work experience. Webb was surprisingly forthcoming about the bank's security procedures, perhaps because unemployment had made him bitter toward his former employer. He described weaknesses in the motion detection system, blind spots in camera coverage, and procedural gaps in the security protocols. Recruiting Webb required several careful conversations over the course of a week. Jack gradually revealed his knowledge of the vault's contents and what he had observed about Morrison's habits. Webb was initially skeptical, but Jack's detailed information convinced him the opportunity was real. The second team member was Tommy Martinez, Jack's neighbor and occasional drinking companion. Tommy was a skilled mechanic who operated a small garage and had a reputation for bending rules when it came to making money. When Jack explained that $8 million split 4 ways meant $2 million each, Tommy's response was immediate and enthusiastic. He agreed to provide technical expertise for disabling security systems. The fourth member was Danny Kowalski, a friend of Tommy's who had experience with electronics. Danny's role would be to create diversions outside the bank during the heist and provide lookout services. With his team assembled, Jack began planning the operation in earnest. On November 10th, they held their first detailed planning meeting in Jack's garage to discuss the technical challenges they would face. The most crucial element of their plan required obtaining architectural blueprints of the bank. Jack had observed that Morrison worked late every Thursday evening, leaving his house empty during those hours. On October 25th, while Morrison was at the bank reviewing quarterly reports, Jack and Tommy broke into the banker's house on Maple Avenue. Tommy disabled the home security system, which was an older model that could be bypassed without triggering alarms. Morrison's home study contained exactly what they needed. Bank documents, architectural blueprints, security system manuals, and insurance reports were filed in unlocked cabinets throughout the room. Jack photographed everything potentially relevant using a camera with high-speed film to capture clear images in low-light conditions. The session took nearly 2 hours as Jack documented every aspect of the bank's defensive measures. The blueprints revealed the bank's complete layout, including the location of security devices, emergency exits, and infrastructure that wasn't apparent from external observation. Most importantly, the plan showed a service tunnel connecting the bank to the adjacent Brennan building. The insurance reports confirmed the exact contents of the vault, 50 gold bars worth $8 million total. The documents also detailed the lockdown system's capabilities, which would prove crucial during their planned escape. Security system manuals revealed the motion detection coverage patterns and showed certain areas of the basement that remained in blind spots due to structural limitations of the building. On November 12th, armed with this intelligence, the team spent 2 weeks planning every aspect of the operation. They studied the blueprints until each man could navigate the bank's basement in complete darkness. Jack's garage became their training facility during the weeks leading up to November 15th. The small space behind his apartment building had been transformed into a precise replica of the bank vault's layout, complete with makeshift shelving and measured distances that matched the architectural blueprints they had stolen from Morrison's house. The team practiced their movements religiously every evening after their regular jobs ended. Jack would arrive home from his postal route, Tommy would close his mechanic shop, and Webb would finish his job hunting activities before they all gathered in the cramped garage to rehearse their roles. They used concrete blocks painted gold to simulate the actual bars they would encounter. Each block weighed approximately 27 pounds, matching the weight specifications Jack had found in Morrison's insurance documents. Tommy had calculated that 50 bars would represent over 1,300 pounds of precious metal, requiring significant physical strength and coordination to move efficiently. Jack explained to his team that they would need to work in pairs to handle the weight effectively. He told them that one person would lift each bar from the vault shelving, while another would place it carefully into the canvas bags they had purchased specifically for the operation. Webb questioned whether they could maintain the necessary speed while handling such heavy objects. He reminded the group that their window of opportunity was extremely limited, with the security guard's patrol schedule providing only a narrow gap for their activities. Tommy responded that their practice sessions had proven they could maintain the required pace if everyone followed their assigned roles precisely. He demonstrated the lifting technique they had developed, showing how to minimize strain while maximizing efficiency. The canvas bags themselves had been selected carefully after extensive research. Jack had purchased military surplus bags designed to carry heavy equipment, reasoning that they would withstand the weight and stress of transporting gold bars without tearing or failing at crucial moments. Danny had tested various transportation methods for the bags, experimenting with different carrying techniques and loading procedures. He reported to the team that 2 men could handle 3 bags efficiently, while a single person could manage 1 bag if necessary during an emergency evacuation. Tommy prepared sophisticated electronic devices to disable the bank's security systems. He explained to Jack that modern security systems often had redundant components that required multiple approaches to neutralize effectively. The devices he had constructed could interfere with motion sensors, disrupt camera feeds, and create false signals to confuse monitoring equipment. Webb provided detailed maps of the bank's interior, marking exact routes through the building and identifying camera blind spots that had remained unchanged since his termination. He told his partners that the basement level had several areas where security coverage was limited due to structural obstacles and cost-cutting measures by bank management. The former security guard also revealed timing information about patrol schedules and guard responsibilities. He explained that the night security officer conducted rounds every 2 hours, with the longest gap occurring between 2:30 and 4:30 a.m., when the guard would typically remain in the main lobby monitoring external perimeters. Danny secured transportation and planned diversionary activities that would draw police attention away from the bank building if their operation was discovered prematurely. He told the team he had identified several locations where he could create minor disturbances that would require police response without causing serious harm to innocent people. The overall plan was deceptively straightforward, relying on precise timing and execution rather than elaborate deception. Jack explained to his team that they would enter through the rear service entrance during the security guard's longest patrol gap, using Webb's access codes to bypass electronic locks. Webb would disable the main security panel using access codes that remained valid, despite his termination from the bank. Bank management had failed to update the security system properly after his departure, leaving a crucial vulnerability that he was eager to exploit for both financial gain and personal revenge. Tommy would handle mechanical obstacles, including the vault door's secondary locking mechanisms that couldn't be bypassed electronically. His mechanical expertise would be essential for forcing entry into the vault itself, once they had penetrated the outer security barriers. The gold would be loaded into canvas bags and carried out through the main exit to Danny's waiting van. Jack emphasized that they needed to complete the entire operation within 30 minutes to avoid encountering the security guard's next scheduled patrol. The timeline was tight but manageable based on their practice sessions. Jack told his team they needed 10 minutes to reach the vault, 15 minutes to load all 50 bars, and 5 minutes to exit the building with their cargo. Any delays could result in discovery and arrest. Each team member had specific responsibilities that had been rehearsed extensively. Jack would serve as the overall coordinator and primary vault breacher. Tommy would handle technical challenges and provide mechanical expertise. Webb would manage security systems and guide them through the building. Danny would provide external support and transportation. They had contingency plans for various scenarios that might occur during the operation. Jack explained that if they encountered unexpected security measures, they would abort the mission rather than risk capture. If they were discovered during the heist, they would attempt to complete the theft quickly and escape before police could respond effectively. Communication during the operation would be limited to essential information only, using predetermined hand signals and whispered phrases to minimize noise. Jack told his team that they couldn't risk using radios or other electronic communication devices that might be detected by bank security systems. On November 10th, they conducted a full dress rehearsal in Jack's garage, simulating every aspect of the operation from entry to escape. The rehearsal revealed several minor timing issues that they corrected through additional practice sessions over the following days. Webb expressed concern about changes to the bank's security procedures that might have occurred since his termination. He told Jack that banks often upgraded their systems without updating all documentation, potentially creating surprises that their stolen blueprints wouldn't reveal. Jack acknowledged the risk but argued that their intelligence was the best available, and that further delays would only increase the chances of discovery. He reminded Webb that Morrison's documents were recent and that major security changes would have required board approval and insurance company notification. Tommy reported that his electronic devices were functioning perfectly and that he had tested them against similar security systems at other locations. He assured the team that he could disable the bank's motion sensors and camera systems long enough for them to complete their operation. Danny confirmed that his transportation arrangements were secure and that he had identified multiple escape routes from the downtown area. He told the team that he could provide early warning if police patrols approached the bank building during their operation. On November 12th, Jack made the final decision to proceed with the heist on November 15th. He told his team that all preparations were complete and that further delays would only increase their anxiety without improving their chances of success. The team agreed that they had planned as thoroughly as possible given their resources and expertise. Webb noted that they had identified and addressed every security measure mentioned in Morrison's stolen documents. Tommy confirmed that his equipment was ready and that all technical aspects of the plan were feasible. Jack reminded everyone that once they committed to the operation, there would be no turning back. He told them that they would either succeed in stealing $8 million in gold or face decades in federal prison for attempting such an audacious crime. On November 13th, they held their final planning meeting to review every detail one last time. Jack went through the timeline step by step, with each team member confirming his understanding of the schedule and his specific responsibilities. Webb provided updated information about the security guard's recent patrol patterns, which he had observed during several evenings of surveillance. He reported that the guard's behavior remained consistent with the patterns he had learned during his employment at the bank. Tommy tested his electronic devices one final time and confirmed that all equipment was functioning properly. He told the team that he had prepared backup devices in case of equipment failure during the critical phases of the operation. Danny reviewed the escape routes and transportation arrangements, ensuring that all vehicles were fueled and positioned appropriately. He reported that he had identified backup transportation options in case their primary plan encountered unexpected obstacles. Jack emphasized the importance of remaining calm under pressure and following their rehearsed procedures regardless of circumstances. He told his team that panic and improvisation were their greatest enemies, more dangerous than any security system the bank might have installed. On November 14th, the team conducted their final preparations. Equipment was checked and rechecked with obsessive attention to detail. Each man confirmed his understanding of the plan and his specific responsibilities one last time. Jack spent the day completing his regular postal route, delivering mail with the same methodical efficiency he had shown for years. His supervisor noticed nothing unusual about his behavior or demeanor, and his customers received their usual professional service. Tommy worked in his garage, completing routine automotive repairs while mentally rehearsing the technical procedures he would need to perform at the bank. His clients noticed nothing different about his work quality or attitude. Webb continued his job search activities, attending an interview at a department store that was hiring security personnel. The interview went poorly, reinforcing his resentment toward the economic circumstances that had led him to consider criminal activity. Danny made final preparations for his role as driver and lookout, ensuring that all vehicles were in perfect mechanical condition and that escape routes remained clear of construction or other obstacles. That evening, Jack spent hours in his apartment, unable to concentrate on television or reading. He told himself repeatedly that in less than 12 hours he would either be a millionaire or facing life in prison. The magnitude of what they were attempting was overwhelming. Jack reviewed the stolen blueprints one final time, visualizing every corridor and doorway they would encounter. He mentally rehearsed the vault entry procedures and the loading sequence for the gold bars, trying to anticipate any potential problems. The postal worker thought about his modest apartment and his routine job, wondering if he would ever see them again after tomorrow night. He realized that regardless of the heist's outcome, his life would never be the same again. At 11 p.m. on November 14th, Jack set his alarm clock for 1:30 a.m. and tried to sleep. His mind raced with thoughts of gold bars, security systems, and prison sentences, making rest nearly impossible despite his physical exhaustion. Jack finally dozed fitfully around midnight, experiencing fragmented dreams about vaults filled with gold and police sirens echoing through dark corridors. His subconscious mind seemed to be preparing for both triumph and disaster in equal measure. The alarm clock's harsh buzz shattered the silence of Jack's bedroom at exactly 1:30 a.m. on November 15th. He had been lying awake for the previous 30 minutes, watching the digital display count down the final moments before the most important night of his life. Jack dressed quickly in the dark clothing they had selected for the operation: black jeans, dark sweater, and soft-soled shoes that would minimize noise during their movements through the bank. He gathered his equipment with practiced efficiency, checking each item against the mental list he had memorized. His flashlight was a military-grade model with adjustable beam intensity and a red filter option for maintaining night vision. The crowbar was 36 inches long, providing maximum leverage while remaining manageable in confined spaces. The canvas bags were folded and secured to his belt, ready for rapid deployment. Most importantly, he carried the photographed blueprints that had made their entire plan possible. These detailed architectural drawings represented hours of risk and careful planning, stolen from Morrison's home study during their break-in 3 weeks earlier. Jack left his apartment at 1:45 a.m., driving through empty residential streets toward the rendezvous point they had selected behind an abandoned warehouse. The city was quiet at this hour, with only occasional police patrols and late-shift workers moving through the downtown area. Tommy arrived at the meeting point at 1:50 a.m., his van loaded with electronic equipment and additional tools they might need during the operation. He reported to Jack that all his devices were functioning properly and that he had conducted final tests on the security disruption equipment. Webb appeared at 1:55 a.m., carrying updated information about the security guards' recent patrol patterns. He told the team that he had observed the guards' behavior for the past 3 nights and confirmed that the timing remained consistent with their plans. Danny took his position across the street from the bank at 2 a.m., equipped with a portable radio to warn the team of any unexpected police activity. He also carried materials to create minor diversions if necessary to draw attention away from the bank building. At 2:15 a.m., Jack, Tommy, and Webb moved into position behind First National Bank. The building loomed before them in the darkness, its stone facade and barred windows reflecting their flashlight beams as they approached the rear service entrance. The surrounding area was completely quiet, exactly as they had expected based on weeks of surveillance. The nearest businesses were closed for the night, and residential activity in the downtown area was minimal during these early morning hours. Webb approached the service entrance and produced a small electronic device from his jacket pocket. He explained to Jack and Tommy that this device could read and replicate the access codes needed to unlock the door, using technology he had learned about during his security training. The door's electronic lock responded immediately to Webb's device, clicking open with a soft mechanical sound that seemed unnaturally loud in the silence. Webb told his partners that bank management's failure to update the security codes after his termination was a costly oversight that was about to benefit them enormously. They slipped inside the building and found themselves in a service corridor that led to the basement level. Webb guided them through the layout he had memorized during his employment, avoiding areas where security cameras might detect their presence. The basement corridors were illuminated only by their flashlight beams, creating dancing shadows on concrete walls and metal doors. Jack was struck by how different the building felt compared to the busy banking floor he had observed during his surveillance activities. Tommy activated his electronic devices as they moved through the basement, creating interference patterns designed to disrupt the motion sensors and camera systems that protected the vault area. He told Jack that the devices would provide approximately 30 minutes of protection before bank security systems could compensate for the interference. The vault area was exactly where the stolen blueprints had indicated, located in the deepest part of the basement behind multiple security barriers. Webb's knowledge of the building's layout proved invaluable as they navigated through service areas that weren't clearly marked on the architectural drawings. Webb's access codes worked perfectly on the outer vault door, causing the heavy steel barrier to swing open with a pneumatic hiss that echoed through the basement corridors. He told Jack that this door was designed to resist physical attacks, but remained vulnerable to electronic manipulation by someone with proper access credentials. The inner vault door presented a more significant challenge, requiring physical force rather than electronic manipulation. Jack applied his crowbar to the door frame, using leverage techniques they had practiced extensively in his garage during their preparation sessions. The steel panel resisted initially, but Jack's persistent pressure eventually caused the locking mechanism to give way with a metallic screech that seemed deafeningly loud in the confined space. Tommy assisted by applying additional force at strategic points along the door frame. As the inner door swung open, their flashlight beams revealed the target they had planned so carefully to reach. 50 gleaming gold bars sat on reinforced shelving, each one catching and reflecting their lights with a warm glow that seemed almost supernatural in the darkness. Jack was momentarily overwhelmed by the sight of such enormous wealth concentrated in such a small space. Each bar represented more money than he had ever seen before, and together they constituted a fortune that could transform every aspect of his life. Tommy expressed amazement at the physical reality of $8 million in precious metal. He told Jack that despite all their planning and preparation, he hadn't truly comprehended the visual impact of seeing so much wealth in one location. Webb reminded them that they needed to maintain their timeline and begin loading the gold immediately. He pointed out that their window of opportunity was limited and that any delays could result in discovery by the security guard's next patrol. They began loading the bars into canvas bags, working methodically to transfer the precious metal according to the procedures they had rehearsed. The weight was substantial but manageable thanks to their practice sessions with concrete blocks in Jack's garage. Jack felt a surge of triumph as they loaded bar after bar into their containers. The operation was proceeding exactly according to plan, and for the first time since conceiving the heist, he allowed himself to believe they would actually succeed in stealing $8 million from one of Cleveland's most secure institutions. Tommy worked alongside Jack, carefully placing each gold bar into the reinforced canvas bags they had selected specifically for this operation. He told Jack that the bars felt heavier than their practice blocks, but the difference was manageable with proper lifting techniques. Webb maintained watch at the vault entrance, monitoring for any signs that their presence had been detected by security systems they might have missed. He reported that the basement remained quiet and that Tommy's electronic devices appeared to be functioning effectively. By 2:30 a.m., they had successfully loaded 25 of the 50 gold bars into their bags. Jack calculated that they were maintaining their planned pace and would complete the loading phase well within their allocated time frame. The physical demands of the work were significant, but not overwhelming. Each man had developed the necessary strength and endurance through weeks of practice with weighted objects. Their preparation was proving its value as they handled the real gold bars with increasing confidence. By 2:40 a.m., they had loaded 40 gold bars into their bags, leaving only 10 more to complete their theft of $8 million. Jack told his team that they were ahead of schedule and that success was within their grasp. Tommy expressed satisfaction with the performance of his electronic equipment, reporting that the security systems remained disrupted and that they had encountered no unexpected technological obstacles. He assured Jack that they could maintain their protective interference for several more minutes. Webb continued his security watch, noting that the building remained completely quiet and that there were no signs of approaching patrol vehicles or other security activity. He told Jack that their timing appeared to be perfect and that they were likely to complete the operation without detection. By 2:45 a.m., they had successfully loaded 47 of the 50 gold bars into their bags. Jack felt an overwhelming sense of accomplishment as they approached the completion of their audacious theft. Only 3 more bars remained between them and the greatest financial coup of their lives. The operation was proceeding exactly according to plan, validating weeks of careful preparation and risk-taking. Jack allowed himself to envision the moment when they would exit the bank with $8 million in stolen gold, transforming themselves from ordinary working men into wealthy criminals. At exactly 2:47 a.m., their perfect plan encountered its first and fatal obstacle. The alarm struck them like a physical assault, a piercing electronic wail that filled the vault with deafening sound and echoed off the concrete walls with painful intensity. The noise was so sudden and overwhelming that all three men froze momentarily, their minds struggling to process what had gone wrong with their carefully planned operation. Red emergency lights began flashing throughout the corridor, bathing everything in a hellish crimson glow that transformed the vault area into a nightmare landscape. The lights strobed with hypnotic regularity, creating disorienting shadows that made it difficult to navigate the space they had known so well just moments before. Webb shouted over the deafening noise that the motion sensors must have detected them despite their careful planning, and Tommy's electronic interference. He told Jack that the security system had been upgraded more recently than the documentation they had stolen from Morrison's house, introducing new detection capabilities that their intelligence hadn't revealed. Jack's mind raced through their options as the alarm continued its relentless assault on their senses. He realized that their 30-minute window had been shattered and that they now had only minutes before security guards or police would respond to the alert. Tommy frantically checked his electronic devices, trying to determine why his carefully designed interference systems had failed to prevent their detection. He told Jack that the alarm system appeared to be operating on frequencies different from those indicated in the stolen technical manuals. The three remaining gold bars sat on their shelves like mocking reminders of how close they had come to complete success. Jack made a desperate decision to grab these final bars and attempt to flee with their entire planned haul, refusing to abandon any portion of the $8 million prize they had worked so hard to obtain. But as they reached the basement corridor with their canvas bags full of stolen gold, they heard the distinctive sound of heavy metal sliding into place throughout the building. The noise was mechanical and final, like the sound of a massive trap closing around them. Webb explained with growing panic that the emergency lockdown system had activated, sealing all exits with steel barriers that dropped from concealed positions in the ceiling and walls. He told Jack that this was the bank's ultimate security measure, designed to contain intruders until law enforcement could arrive and arrest them. The rear door they had entered through just 30 minutes earlier was now secured by massive steel bolts that had emerged from the door frame, making it completely immovable without industrial cutting equipment. Jack pulled frantically at the handle, but the door remained absolutely rigid despite his desperate efforts. Tommy suggested that they might be able to use his tools to disable the locking mechanism, but Webb told him that the system was designed to resist exactly such attempts. The lockdown barriers were controlled by hardened circuits that couldn't be easily accessed or manipulated from inside the building. Through the thick walls, they could hear sirens approaching as police units responded to the silent alarm that had been triggered by their presence in the vault. The sound grew steadily louder, indicating that law enforcement was converging on the bank building from multiple directions. Jack realized that their situation was hopeless and that their dreams of wealth had become a nightmare of entrapment. He told his partners that they were trapped inside the bank with 50 gold bars worth $8 million and no apparent way to escape before police arrived. Webb confirmed that the lockdown system was designed specifically for this scenario, creating an impregnable barrier between intruders and freedom. He explained that bank security experts had learned from previous robberies and had developed countermeasures that made escape virtually impossible once the alarm was triggered. Tommy desperately examined the steel barriers, looking for any weakness or vulnerability they might exploit to create an escape route. He told Jack that the barriers appeared to be solid steel, at least 3 inches thick, and secured by locking mechanisms that were inaccessible from their side. The sirens were now clearly audible even through the bank's thick walls, and Jack could distinguish multiple vehicles approaching from different directions. He realized that police were probably surrounding the building and establishing a perimeter that would make escape impossible, even if they could somehow breach the lockdown barriers. Danny's voice crackled over their portable radio, reporting that police cars were arriving from all directions, and that the entire downtown area around the bank was being cordoned off. He told Jack that he was being forced to abandon his position to avoid arrest, and that he could no longer provide external support. Jack looked at the canvas bags containing 50 gold bars, $8 million in precious metal that was supposed to represent their financial freedom and transformation from ordinary workers into wealthy men. Instead, the gold had become evidence of their crime and the cause of their inevitable downfall. Tommy suggested that they hide the gold and claim they were just vandals who had broken into the bank randomly, without any specific target or sophisticated planning. He argued that this story might result in lesser charges than armed robbery and theft of $8 million. Jack knew immediately that such a story would never hold up under investigation. He told Tommy that the sophisticated nature of their break-in, their detailed knowledge of the bank's layout, and their presence in the vault area made it clear that this was a carefully planned heist rather than random vandalism. Webb pointed out that their use of his access codes and their possession of detailed blueprints would quickly reveal the premeditated nature of their crime. He told Jack that investigators would easily trace the stolen architectural plans back to Morrison's house and connect the break-in to their bank robbery. The sound of police radios was now audible through the walls, and Jack could hear officers coordinating their response to the bank robbery. He realized that law enforcement was following established procedures for such incidents, and that their capture was now simply a matter of time. Jack made the decision to accept their fate rather than engage in futile resistance that might result in violence or additional charges. He told his partners that they should cooperate with police and hoped that their lack of violence during the robbery might be considered a mitigating factor during sentencing. Tommy expressed disbelief that their carefully planned operation had failed so completely and so quickly. He told Jack that they had been less than 3 minutes away from successfully completing the greatest theft of their lives when the alarm had destroyed everything. Webb admitted that he had underestimated the bank's security capabilities and that his insider knowledge had proven insufficient to predict all the protective measures they would encounter. He told Jack that his desire for revenge against his former employer had clouded his judgment about the risks they were taking. At 3:05 a.m., they could hear police officers entering the building through the main entrance, using emergency override codes to bypass the same lockdown system that had trapped the would-be thieves in the basement. The sound of multiple footsteps and radio chatter indicated that a substantial force was conducting a systematic search of the building. Jack, Tommy, and Webb sat down beside their canvas bags full of stolen gold, accepting that their criminal enterprise had ended in complete failure. The transformation from postal worker to millionaire that Jack had dreamed of would never occur, replaced instead by a journey from freedom to federal prison. At 3:15 a.m., police officers reached the basement level and discovered the 3 men sitting quietly in the corridor outside the vault. Detective Lieutenant Sarah Chen was among the first officers to arrive, and she later described the scene as one of the most straightforward arrests of her career. The suspects offered no resistance and made no attempt to deny their involvement in the theft. They sat surrounded by canvas bags containing 50 gold bars worth $8 million, providing irrefutable evidence of their crime and making any defense strategy virtually impossible. Danny had been apprehended outside the building while attempting to flee the scene in his van. Police had found additional equipment and materials that clearly linked him to the bank robbery conspiracy, completing the roundup of all participants in the failed heist. Jack Harris looked at the gold bars that had promised to transform his life and realized that his dream of easy wealth had become the foundation of his destruction. The $8 million in precious metal would be returned to the bank's vault, while he would spend the next 15 years contemplating the difference between ambition and greed in a federal prison cell. Detective Sarah Chen found the 4 men sitting quietly beside their canvas bags with 50 gold bars worth $8 million. Jack Harris, Tommy Martinez, Marcus Webb, and Danny Kowalski were arrested and charged with bank robbery, theft of precious metals, and conspiracy. The gold bars were returned to the bank vault, providing irrefutable proof of the theft. The trial began on March 18, 1991, in the Federal District Court for the Northern District of Ohio, with Judge Patricia Williams presiding over proceedings that attracted significant media attention. United States Attorney Michael Davidson presented overwhelming physical evidence against the defendants, who had been caught red-handed with the stolen gold bars in their possession. The defense attorneys faced an impossible task, as no amount of legal maneuvering could explain away the fact that their clients had been caught with $8 million worth of stolen gold. On May 15, 1991, Judge Williams sentenced Jack Harris to 15 years in federal prison as the mastermind, Tommy Martinez to 12 years, Marcus Webb to 10 years, and Danny Kowalski to 8 years. Jack Harris began serving his sentence at Federal Correctional Institution McKean in Pennsylvania, where his dream of $8 million had become a nightmare of federal imprisonment.